Hello, and welcome to the part of this DVD where we read your mail. I'm your host, Jason Lee. As you can see behind me, they're shooting a scene from My Name is Earl. When I'm not shooting, I like to sit here at the trailer park, in my chair, with my slippers, relax and answer fan mail. A big part of the success of the show is due to the fans. We have a pretty diehard fan base, and we're all proud of each and every one of you for tuning in Thursdays at 8, 7 Central. We understand that a lot of you have to TiVo the show because a lot of people are still in traffic at 7 Central. We apologize for that. But you still watch it. And without you guys, we wouldn't be on the air. And so we want to show you how much we appreciate you by giving you our answers to your letters.
Steve from Laurel, Maryland asks, is Camden County supposed to be in Maryland?
Hello, Steve from Laurel, Maryland. You know, it kind of is supposed to be in Maryland. We never technically say where it's supposed to be, but when I was writing the pilot, I kind of thought about Waldorf, Maryland was kind of what I envisioned in my mind. Actually, there was a line at one point in the pilot about Waldorf, Maryland, but we ended up taking it out because there's way too many palm trees in the shots, and not a lot of palm trees in Waldorf, Maryland. But I try to get back to Maryland and the DC area as often as possible to just kind of soak up the Waldorf in the air to get more material.
Rebecca Willows asks, did you find it hard to act as your character at first, or did you get it straight away?
Hi, Rebecca. To answer your question, I did find it a little bit difficult because in my mind, in the original pilot, Catalina was written as Tatiana, who was a Russian maid. So when I went to the audition, I went in doing my version of a Russian maid, and I loved it. So by the time it changed to Hispanic, I was really struggling with what kind of accent I should give Catalina.
Excuse me?
At first, the accent was too thick.
If my boss comes back and sees that there's no garbage in the parking lot, he's gonna get used to it like that. So could you
By
please
the third season, I kind of got really comfortable with what is Catalina now.
Oh, could you give me a hand? There's a customer at Club Chubby who thinks he's hilarious.
Earl?
Hey, Crabman.
The character is actually, that's the way I am in real life. I act as if I'm not really that way, but I am a genius.
I'm not gonna argue about this.
And I really do walk like Charlie Chaplin, and I do have sleepy eyes a lot. No, it wasn't difficult at all.
I'm gonna get that money, Earl. I want it.
When I first read the script, I understood her right away. She is exhausting to play and always has been, and has only become more exhausting to play over the last 4 years because she's done nothing but get crazier.
Bring me Earl Hickey!
So yes, I understood her and got her right away, but only because of all the amazing people watching that I've gotten to do over my lifetime, spending time in the South.
Here's an idea. Here's a crazy idea. How about for once we do what I want to do? And I might not know what that is right now, but I know what it's not. Doing another item on your stupid list!
I got it straight away. I didn't find it hard at all. As I read the pilot script, I could hear Randy's voice in my head, and that is now Randy's voice all the time for almost 100 episodes.
Talking about karma.
Who's Carmen?
I don't know, something Carson Daly came up with. Rebecca, I could get into the method of acting, the amount of work that goes into preparing for a role, but I won't. Mainly because I'm not that good of an actor. A lot that has happened to me has happened by accident, and one incident has been purely magical. I was having a difficult time figuring out how I was going to play the role until I decided to grow the mustache. As soon as that thing blossomed, I got the wardrobe on, I figured out how I was going to wear my hair. It happened like that. So, yes, it was difficult, but this thing is like a magic carpet ride. it's taken me off into the sunset.
John from Newark, Delaware asks, was the series originally created such that each episode would be an item from Earl's list indefinitely? Or were the detours we've had along the way, Earl going to prison, Darnell's witness protection, in mind from the start?
Great question, John from Delaware. Actually, the truth of the matter is, when I wrote the pilot, there was absolutely nothing planned except for the pilot. I mean, in my mind, I knew, yes, this was going to be a show about a guy who crosses things off. He did, crosses things off on his list, bad things that he did. But all the detours along the way are just thanks to all the writers we have and coming up with great ideas. I mean, little things like Darnell in the witness protection program just came out of a joke. I believe it was one of the writers, Hillary Winston, who had a joke in one of her scripts randomly that just said that he was in the witness protection program, or that he used to have this different name, and from there it blossomed into this whole story that we've had fun with. So everybody just kind of pitches things, and we have no idea where we're going, and it's a lot of fun getting there.
Spooneroony from Fairfield, Ohio asks, you guys do a great job with continuity. Thank you. So I guess I'd like to know what system you guys use to keep everything straight. Do you guys have a bunch of index cards pinned to a board, or is there a huge spreadsheet somewhere?
Good question, Spooneroony. And by the way, how about that Jen Jackson, huh? Wow. She wearing the tank top and the pigtails today? Man, she is a tall drink of water. Looking good in that tank top and the pigtails. I don't even remember the question. What was the question again?
What system you guys use to keep everything straight? Do you guys have a bunch of index cards pinned to a board, or is there a huge spreadsheet somewhere?
Yeah, continuity. Thanks, Jen. So we do, as you asked, have some cards in the room. I don't know if you can see this, but up along there we have in yellow at the top different years and significant events that have happened during these years. And that is something that we can refer to, especially when we're doing an episode that has a lot of time jumps back and forth. And then if we're in a different room, because we work in 3 different writers' rooms, this is just the ugliest. And if we're in another room and something like that comes up, and then casual observers and viewers aren't going to remember that much either. And so we kind of go, if it bumps us, it'll bump you. And if it requires us to actually go back and dig through scripts, we figure nobody at home is going to do that. And then we just go with what makes a better story in that moment for the problem we're solving.
April asks, does Jason Lee really do the robot, or is that just Earl?
I'm glad you asked, April, because a lot of people think we use a body double for said robot dancing. I want you to go ahead and take a look at this. Does this look like a body double? I didn't think so, April.
Spooneroony from Fairfield, Ohio asks, how many hairpieces does Jamie Presley have, and which one is her favorite?
I honestly don't know the exact number of hairpieces because we run the gamut when it comes to Joy's hair of hairpieces. We have extensions and full wigs and half wigs and falls and clip-ons and all kinds of things. My real hair actually comes up to my chin. It's in a bob, so my hairdresser's pretty outstanding because he makes everybody believe that I have 18 different lengths of hair on a daily basis.
Actually, the real answer to how many wigs does Jamie Presley have is 111.
And my favorite is probably Joy's blonde afro puffs.
Darnell, get in here. There's a bubble jet in a place I know you're gonna like.
April asks, is Randy's dancing to It Takes Two his own, or was it choreographed?
In the pilot, we were in a what was meant to be a gay bar, and I didn't feel like dancing with any men that I didn't know, so I made Greg dance with me. So that was my own interpretation of Randy's dance, with a little bit of help from Greg Garcia.
Beth from Simi Valley, California asks, does TV's Tim Stack lean on the writing staff to include him, however briefly, in episodes to up his IMDb count?
Well, Beth, that's an interesting question. Tim Stack, is a writer on the show and also an actor for us occasionally. And really what happened with Tim is Tim was just a writer on the show. There was no plan to have him actually on the program, but Tim has an addiction to Thai massages and whiskey, and that adds up. And we don't pay him that much as a writer because, quite frankly, he doesn't do that much as a writer. But when he started asking me for money, I thought, we got to find a different way to get this guy some cash. And what better way than to have the studio pay him for acting?
A Cat May Look from Columbia, Missouri asks, can we expect any more episodes from musical numbers like Respect the Meat? P.S. I love you, TV's Tim Stack.
Well, on behalf of TV's Tim Stack, let me just say he loves you too. And by the way, how about that Liam who read the question, huh? That is a tall drink of water, huh? He is great to have around, really. Really great to have around. What was the rest of that question?
A Cat May Look from Columbia, Missouri asks, can we expect any more episodes from musical numbers like Respect the Meat?
I'd love to do more musical numbers like Respect the Meat. That was the first song I had ever written, and it was a tremendous amount of fun to do and really, really, really technically difficult. The amount of detail that goes into not only the musical aspects and recording, but also then the music video and the dance. Really a cool challenge, and I hope we get to do it again.
I'm not saying what to eat. Life is short and life is sweet, and meat is life, so I repeat. Please respect the meat.
My name is Meester from Sunnyvale, California, writes, Dear Greg Garcia and work friends, does Mr. Turtle have a stunt double? And also, is Mr. Turtle really a mister?
Of course, Mr. Turtle has a stunt double. Actors don't do their own stunts when they're valuable members of the cast and something could go wrong. Usually get some dumb, big, stupid guy to double for the actors, so we have a dumb, big, stupid turtle, a double for Mr. Turtle. And as far as is Mr. Turtle male or not, I think there was an episode this year where we saw Mr. Turtle mounting a female turtle, and I think you can be pretty sure just from that scene right there what sex Mr. Turtle is.
A Cat May Look from Columbia, Missouri asks, was the HR Puff and Stuff costume used for Randy's sidekick on the creative writing episode The Real Deal? If so, where did you guys get it from after all this time? Did the Crofts have a yard sale or something?
No, we didn't have a yard sale. As a matter of fact, we got it out of our warehouse. That is the original HR Puff and Stuff costume.
Well, actually, Sid, we didn't get him immediately out of the warehouse because we brought him to Beverly Hills because we have the best plastic surgeon. So he's been definitely worked on so that he looks exactly like he did in the original series in 1969.
Andrew from Vancouver, British Columbia asks, technically, doesn't vote for this and I promise to do something crazy at the Emmys mean you've got to do something crazy at the Emmys as long as at least one Emmy voter voted for the episode? Can you give us any hints about what that will be?
Yes, Andrew, technically I guess it does mean that if one person votes for it that I have to do something crazy at the Emmys. However, with our luck lately with the Emmys, I think what I'll probably do at the Emmys that was crazy is I'll have to crash it because I don't think I'll be invited. The only reason I named the episode Vote for This and I'll do something crazy at the Emmys was because when they send out the list of all the episodes you can vote for, they don't put the writer's name on it. They just put the name of the episode and what show it is. So I thought it was very funny as you go down the list, it'll be like Weeds, Agrestic on Fire. And then all of a sudden it'll say, vote for this and I'll do something crazy on the Emmys. And then I thought that would be hilarious.
Trini Girl from Bronx, New York asks, Dear writers and producers, have you considered bringing back Joy's mother for another episode or more? I think Brett Butler is great and I'd love to see her on the show again.
Trini Girl from the Bronx? Did I know you? No, I'm just kidding. That's a really good question, Trini Girl. You see, every time Joy's mother would come back, because I wrote that episode, I would get some money. Not a lot of money, but a little bit of money. And because of my drinking problem, that would be a really good thing to have some extra money. So that's a very good question. And start to get a campaign going to bring back Joy's mother. I think it's a great idea.
Will Hutchings, aka the Mad Maple, from Happy Valley, Canada writes, have you thought about trying to talk Jason Lee's good buddy Kevin Smith into either writing, directing, or appearing in an episode?
You know, Mad Maple, I'm glad you asked about Kevin Smith because he's been this close to being on the show. We wanted him to direct an episode, but he wasn't available. And I think 2 or 3 times I've asked him to be on the show, but he was always out of town or working on a movie. So yes, Mad Maple, we have tried to get Kevin on the show, and we'll keep trying.
Patty Smith from Ann Arbor, Michigan writes, "This is so cool. As others have said, your show is just the best. I'm a special ed teacher in Detroit Public Schools, and my kids are visually impaired. One time, one of them asked me what karma meant. It was like trumpets sounded. I got to use Earl lessons in my class lessons. It was so cool, and the kids loved it. I also have used the Randy blogs as a way to help them learn to proofread. I just brailled them or printed them out in large print. There were lots of things to fix. My question is, how much input do the actors get regarding their characters? Can they improvise lines or make suggestions if they don't think some lines, outfits, or actions will fit their characters? They are all so talented, it's just amazing. I can't imagine the kind of hours you all must put in. Thanks for the great work and for this opportunity."
There is not a lot of improv done, and my own personal feeling is that anytime I hear an actor say my character wouldn't do something or say something, I feel that that's just kind of the actor being lazy. That's my honest opinion of that. And I've done that too, but I know that ultimately it comes out of laziness. I think that the writers do such a fantastic job that it's really my job to then come and figure out how to do what they've asked me to do. I think it's amazing that you have incorporated our show into informing kids about karma. I think karma is a very valid topic and subject nowadays. I think there's some things we do on our show that might not be appropriate for kids, but hopefully you're weeding through that. And yeah, the Randy's blog, Randy needs a lot of help with punctuation and grammar, so any suggestions I'd appreciate.
Beth from Simi Valley, California asks, "For Jamie Presley, what's it like to make out with a delicious Eddie Steeples? Though come to think of it, we actually don't get to see that saucy couple make out much. So I guess my question is, what's up with that?"
The reason that you don't get to see us make out as much as you're saying you would like to see is because it's television. It's not HBO television, it's network television, and there's standards, so we can only show so much in an 8 o'clock time slot because it's family hour. And our show already pushes the envelope as much as it does. For an 8 o'clock show, we have to hold back in certain areas, and that is one of them.
Victor from Tucson, Arizona asks, "This season we finally learned the story behind Crabman's stint in the Witness Protection Program. I remember on season 2 DVD commentaries you guys mentioned that you had considered ending the first season with an episode about Crabman and the WPP Witness Protection Program, but decided against it. Was the story we saw this season the story we would have seen then? If not, what changes did you make and why? And what made you decide to finally tell Crabman's story this season? Thanks for a great show. This has been one of the best seasons you've had yet." Thanks, Victor. And here's your answer.
Well, Victor, the whole witness protection thing has been knocking around for a while, and we just kind of used it for jokes here and there. And we knew we would ultimately pay it off. We just didn't know when we would ultimately pay it off. And we had a lot of different ways to go with it. We always kind of knew it was going to be with some kind of government agency kind of thing. We also were kind of building this story where he was kind of a bit of a badass. Some of the theories were that like he accidentally saw an alien, or there was all kinds of different things, or he went into a room and found George Bush playing poker with Osama bin Laden, or just there was all kinds of nutty things. And then ultimately we felt like season 4 was the time to do it. We had teased the audience enough, and we just kind of sat down and talked about what it was going to be, and we thought it was a great opportunity to meet his father and really show what that relationship was about. And so that way the craziness of the witness protection and the secret government agency would be grounded in a real father-son relationship.
Drew from Spartanburg, South Carolina writes, "Thanks for agreeing to do this. You're all fantastic. One of the great things about this show is the way that it's both hilarious and touching. I imagine it's not easy to do. With that in mind, how do you generally break your stories? Do you start with the plot first and work your way to the emotional hook, or do you start with the emotional hook and create a plot to surround it?"
The way we break break stories is really both of those things. Sometimes we start at the end and have a really good idea for a funny ending, and we try and put heart into that ending. Or sometimes we start with the heart and then try and figure out something really funny to go with it. Another way that we break stories is we've generated every season, including season 4, and it's getting harder and harder, but we've generated lists of all the bad things that we've done as writers, as people, but the writers have generated these lists. So when we break stories, sometimes it's like a confessional of all the terrible things we've done. And now 4 years in, we're having to dig deeper and deeper and get a little bit more honest about the terrible things we've done. So we're a pretty warped group of people with pretty warped ideas. So we're able to figure out what's nice about something and then really twist it and make it kind of ugly and unexpected. And I think that's what you're talking about in this question, why you like My Name is Earl.
Stacy from Sacramento, California asks, is there any chance we'll see Ralph again soon? Giovanni Ribisi just does an awesome job with the character. Thanks, Greg and TPTB.
Stacy, you know, I've been kind of goofing and trying to be funny like most of us insecure actors do whenever they do things like this. But in all seriousness, Giovanni Ribisi is our favorite guest star. We've had amazing guest stars. I think some of that has to do with the fact that Ethan and I are friends with him, and we've known him for many, many years. But when he comes on to the set, he's completely in character the entire time, and it's absolutely hysterical. So I want you, Stacy from Sacramento, to start a website. Get Giovanni Ribisi back on mynameesearl.org. All right, and let's put together a petition, because Giovanni's not always available to be on the show. He doesn't always return my phone calls. So I need you to help me get him back on the show. Thanks, Stacy.
Kel Varnson from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada writes, my question is a simple one. Are we going to be seeing any more of Randy's Ranchero in future episodes? It was a nice looking car.
The Ranchero, I would love to see again. It's a much, much, much better car than the El Camino that we drive typically on the set. The El Camino stinks, the seats are broken, it doesn't start always when you want it to. There's no air conditioning, and the Ranchero is actually like a legitimately functioning car, not just a pretend car like for a TV show.
Look what I got you.
I already had her. Not great.
Not me, jerk. The car.
That Ranchero belongs to Greg Garcia, and I think they have to pay him for the use of it, so I'm sure he would love to offset the price of the car by having it back on the show. So I would think, yes, we would be seeing that car again, but I have no idea when.
Pia B from Palos Verdes asks, can you talk about product placement? For instance, in Sold a Guy a Lemon Car, Joy wanted a Jane Seymour necklace, which we have dubbed the Butt Heart necklace. Who tells you to include a particular product, and how do you feel about having to do this?
I love it. I don't mind doing it at all. I think that, you know, look, in real life, there are products everywhere in our lives. So if I can work it into a story and it makes sense, why not? You know, these shows are very expensive to make, especially My Name is Earl, the way we shoot it, all the cast we use, the guest cast, the great people that come in, it adds up. And whatever we can do to offset that cost, it certainly helps us. And it helps us to keep bringing you great episodes. It helps us to keep bringing different guest casts in. And if we need to do some product placement for that, that's no problem with me, because as long as it makes sense in the world, I'm all for it.
Kim Kelly asks, I'm curious. I believe he has the first money, but they never show his going to bank or using paper or plastic to buy stuff. That is not reality. What's up with that?
Well, Kim, if you remember back to season 1, Earl kept cash, the lotto cash, in a lockable metal box in the El Camino. And if I remember correctly, there is a bank account, and Randy was the only one with access to that account while Earl was in prison. Earl lost his money. He spent it all throwing that prison prom for that kid on his list, and then he got Alyssa Milano's money when she became a Camdenite. Where he keeps that money, I don't know. He probably has a bank account, and we just don't see him go to the bank to pull any money out because it's probably kind of boring to see an ATM transaction. Thanks for your question, Kim. I hope that was a good answer.
Drew from Spartanburg, South Carolina asks, was it difficult returning to an item of the week plot after being a more serialized show the last 2 years? Obviously, you've never gotten away from that completely. And the show was slightly serialized this season, but you definitely returned to the season 1 model, if you will.
Drew from Spartanburg, that is a terrifically intelligent question. You know, I grew up in North Carolina, which you may realize is just north of your border at South Carolina, and we always were raised to think that you guys were really dumb down there, but that's just a great question, and I take back all the stuff I thought about you guys. That was really terrific. It was less difficult than we thought it was going to be, or at least I thought it was going to be. During the end of season 1, doing the bread and butter sort of stories where you have a different victim every week, we were struggling with some of them, or at least I felt we were, and that was part of the motivation towards going to more arcs, and also just to break things up and make it different. But somehow being away from it for a long period, I don't know if we were rejuvenated when we came back to doing those simple ones. Yeah, it was actually kind of invigorating.
Will Hutchings, also known as the Mad Maple, from Happy Valley, Newfoundland, and Labrador, Canada, asks, when were you planning to follow up on the story behind the one-legged woman? Or have you dropped that character? I don't remember seeing her since Earl went to jail. And by the way, what's up with that? What happened to her?
Hey, Will, I don't know what state Happy Valley, Canada is in, but you guys are a little bit behind the times. Actually, Earl made up to Dee Dee at the end of season 3 in Camdenites Part 1, where he found her leg where he had hidden it after he had stolen it, decided to return it to her, and discovered to his surprise that Dee Dee did not want the leg back. Instead, she wanted Earl to hop a mile in her shoe, so to speak. So he had to carry her groceries, do all kinds of things to make it up to her, and in the end, she forgave him. So all is well between Earl and Dee Dee. I know you were a little concerned about that, and you probably will see her again in future seasons.
A Cat May Look from Columbus, Missouri asks, hello, Camden. I love the classic rock music on My Name Is Earl. Is it selected by committee, or is it chosen by a single person who has all that music playing continuously in his head?
A lot of people contribute to what music goes into the show. And I know in my first cut, I put a lot of songs in that end up in the show, and I think that's just because I'm a fan of the type of music that has worked best in the show, the kind of classic rock that you hear in our show. That's what I've spent a lot of time listening to. So I just collected a bunch of songs and threw them into our system even before I had seen anything other than the first episode of My Name Is Earl. And I'm still going to that collection of songs to put in the show.
Will Hatching, aka the Mad Maple from Happy Valley, Canada asks, was it TV's Tim Stack's idea to be portrayed as drunken has been, or do you just aim the camera at him and hope he remembers at least a couple of his lines?
Really funny, Will, making fun of me because that was my idea. Greg asked me if I wanted to do the show as myself, and I said only if I play me as a horrible drunk, because of some stories I had heard about TV stars in the 60s who used to go around town wearing their costume even on weekends, which I thought was really pathetic and funny. And perhaps one of them was the skipper from Gilligan's Island. Anyway, so I decided to, put on the Son of the Beach outfit, and as if I had moved to Camden, and I'm going to spend the rest of my days drunk.
Tarragon 918 asks, Dear Greg, my inquiring mind wants to know what the significance of the changing pictures in your Amigos de Garcia logo is. Okay, I know they must indeed be your friends, but who are they? Oh dear, that came out a bit too personal. Probably better left to my imagination, eh? Tarragon 918, that is a saucy question.
Thanks, Tarragon 918. That is a saucy question. When it was time for me to come up with a production logo, I looked at all kinds of other shows and tried to see what they were doing for their production logos. And Phil Rosenthal on Everybody Loves Raymond had a thing where he would put a different lunch item up every week, and I thought that was kind of fun. So I thought, what can I do? And then I thought, you know what, I can put a different friend's picture up every time and give them 2 seconds on TV. And then the name Amigos de Garcia, just Friends of Garcia. And I thought with Yes Dear, that would be a fun thing to do. And Yes Dear went 122 episodes, so I ran out of friends at a certain point. And I just started putting in all kinds of people.
John from Newark, Delaware asks, when we see a group scene, such as in the Crab Shack, and the crowd doesn't include the town residents who have now been established, like Sonny and Willie, is that for budgetary reasons, or the actors not being available, or some other reason?
Well, John from Newark, to be brutally honest, it's probably for budgetary reasons. You see, to get an actor in just a scene as opposed to an entire week, essentially we have to pay them for an entire week's worth of work, even though they may be seen in essentially an extra role for an hour. And I mean, I would pay for it. I think you should be asking the studio that question, because you're right. I often ask myself, why shouldn't we see more of Kenny or Patty the Daytime Hooker hanging out at the Crab Shack when we're doing a scene that may not have to do with them? Write Fox, people, and let's get these characters on the show a lot more often. Let's pay for it. Thanks, John.
Erin from Attleboro, Massachusetts writes, thanks to everyone who makes My Name is Earl one of my favorite shows. My question is in the spirit of the offer by Greg Garcia. This is the only show I have watched that allows such success and input from its viewers. Thanks to the internet, it's much easier for the viewers to voice their opinions, how much, if at all, as the instant access to viewers' response changed how My Name is Earl or TV in general is made.
I'm not sure how much it affects the show, because subconsciously I'm sure we read that stuff and we know what you like and what you don't like, and then we're going to steer the show maybe in one direction, or if you really liked an episode with one character, we might bring that character back. You know, not to the point where we're looking at it going, oh gosh, what'd they like, because the truth is it is a small sampling of our audience, but at the same time it's the people that care enough to go on and write about it, and I think that's pretty cool.
Well, that concludes the fan mail portion of this DVD. We hope the answers have been satisfactory enough for you. If not, you can now write us letters of pure hatred. But continue to watch the show. We love you all, and thank you.